I suppose speaking of teams that are obviously looking to, I suppose, get back to the chasing pack or get back to, I suppose, competing at the highest level of Gaelic football is Meath. And as we've seen today, a very interesting appointment in Colm O'Rourke, who was announced as Meath senior football manager. Certainly an interesting one because he said a couple of weeks ago that he wasn't interested in the job, and he said that, you know, it's too late for him now to be going into inter-county management and that he was too fixed on club football and he was enjoying sort of his management there. But I'm not too sure what's changed between then and now, but here he is, the new Meath senior football manager, and kind of crazy really, because I didn't really think we'd see him go into inter-county football management. I think maybe there was a time period, maybe like 15, 20 years ago, where maybe he could have went in as a manager. But here he is as manager of Meath. What were your thoughts on that?
I like it. I do. I think he's exactly who Meath need. Like McEntee, for whatever reason, obviously there's stuff behind the scenes, but McEntee couldn't keep the same team together year on year. Like me and you mentioned this, every year that Meath came into play against Dublin, they had a new main forward, they had a new top scorer, they had a new, and then the next year that forward would always be gone. Like one year it was Mickey Newman, one year it was Ben Brennan, one year it was Thomas O'Reilly, then it was Jordan Morris. Like they could never keep a sense of continuity. But with O'Rourke there, if he brings in the right guys in that backroom team, I mean, their under-20 management team there a couple of years ago was unbelievable. They had like Bernard Flynn in the backroom team. They had Trevor Giles. So if they can bring in the right backroom team that have worked with these lads, I mean, you're looking, they won the All-Ireland minor title. Footballers like Sean Emanuel and that team looked seriously impressive. They've got a lot of young talent like Shane Walsh, Jordan Morris, Cathal Hickey. Some serious talent in that Meath team. And if they can get it right, they might be onto a winner there with O'Rourke as manager. Because if you're saying, he hasn't really managed inter-county, he managed the international rules team and was successful in that. Ireland won when O'Rourke was the manager. He has experience. I mean, his punditry is pretty good. He spots, a lot of things that I wouldn't spot personally. I think he's pretty damn good. And if he brings in the right lads there around him, I think Meath will be right in there. Because on top of that, the last few years that I've watched Meath play Dublin, I fully have thought Meath do not believe they can beat Dublin. There's something in that team that they really just don't think they can beat Dublin. There is no one on the Meath panel right now who has beaten Dublin, like ever, in league or championship. I think the last time Meath beat Dublin was 2010. Donald Keoghan, I think, came in on 2012, I believe, with Brian Menton. And then apart from that, they're all pretty recently joined the team. So getting these lads in a very similar way that Jim McGuinness did with Donegal, where he ushered in the likes of Michael Murphy, the likes of Carl Lacey, the likes of Paddy McBrearty, that had been successful with minor teams and under 21 teams that Jim McGuinness was manager of. If he can bring them lads in, then they believe they can beat Tyrone because they have done it at minor level. They've done it at under 21 level, and now they got a chip on their shoulder and they want to be the ones to do it at senior level. McGuinness brought them in. If Colm O'Rourke brings through the likes of Sean Emanuel, the likes of Cathal Hickey that have beaten Dublin at minor level, beating them at under 20 level, and bring them into the senior team at a time when Dublin are actually going through a little bit of a transition and are kind of, hanging on to the last few lads that were part of that All-Ireland winning team, and say, look, we can be the ones that can beat Dublin here. Everyone's writing us off. They bring in the likes of Colm O'Rourke, the likes of, maybe even a Liam Hayes or someone like that into the backroom team that they just never, ever feared playing Dublin. Give them that real chip on the shoulder. It could be the perfect storm.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them that I'm not sure about at the same time, because he has been so long sort of outside of management, and the fact that he was so adamant that he wasn't going to be manager, it kind of does let me think, like, what's changed, sort of, like what's kind of led to that change of heart. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
maybe he saw who was supposed to come in this place, and he was like, no.
I'm not sure what it was, like, or like maybe they're like matching his wages on the Sunday game. I really don't know. Do you know that way? Like, but look, at the same time, as you said there, like, he can be quite controversial on the Sunday game, and I do think a lot of the time in the last few years he's probably you know, like he's gotten a bit carried away at times, but I do think he clearly is an excellent pundit. Like, make no mistake about that.
Maybe the Sunday game pushed him out because he was saying too much.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saying, you're gone as well. You think Pat Spillane retiring was a mistake? Go on, out the door with all these.
Yeah, no, like it's an interesting one, all right. Like, and I think the days of O'Rourke, Brawley, Spillane, like I think, you know, like we'll never get that again, you know, like, which is kind of mad when you think about it. But yeah, but at the same time, look, he is a man who knows Meath football inside and out. You know, like he's won, I think, 2 All-Irelands as a player. He actually won 2 county titles with Simonstown a couple of years ago in Meath, which was sort of a big achievement at the time. Like, so look, he has achieved things, and he knows Meath inside and out. He knows the players. He knows the young lads coming through. And, you know, Meath need that bite back, in my opinion. They need a bit of fight into them. They need a bit of, like, you know, like I remember when Dublin were playing Meath back in the mid-2000s, and you didn't like the Meath players, you know what I mean? Like, you hated them in many ways. I mean, hate's a strong word, but in terms of a rivalry aspect, you know, like the likes of your Graham Garrity's, your Joe Sheridans, these lads, like, they were tough players, and, you know, you'd always be in for a battle. Like, that just hasn't been the case with Meath in the last, like, 8-9 years. Like, once Dublin build up a bit of a lead, their heads just go. And we've seen this a lot of the time when Meath have played other sides as well. Like, like technically very, very good footballers, but, you know, it's been that sort of mental aspect and that sort of that bite, I think, that Meath really need back, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I can see the first game that Dublin go to play now against Meath, because remember, Dublin are in the same division as them now in the Allianz League. We're going to be playing them in the league. I feel like if that's in Port Talton, I mean, if you're a fan of a good GAA fist fight, I feel like that is a one to put some money down on. I feel like Meath will be determined to be like, yeah, we're back. And they're going to just go straight over and just punch someone like Brian Howard in the face the second that the game kicks off. So I feel like O'Rourke will fire them up to a level that we haven't seen a Meath team fired up to since they were back in the mid-2000s, when you're right, like the likes of Joe Sheridan, Graham Garrity, like they were hard as nails, and they weren't the slightest bit afraid of Dublin back then. And like Dublin drew at Meath in 07, like they took a replay to beat them. And one thing that Keane Ward spoke on, and if you just, Keane Ward's a great speaker, like he makes great points. He was saying it really frustrated them back then, because teams that would beat Meath, like Wexford, for example, beating Meath in 2008, and then went into that Leinster final against Dublin, folded after about 10 minutes. It was like the other teams in Leinster at the time didn't believe that they could beat Dublin. But Meath and that crop always held on to the belief that they could beat Dublin. And look, 2010 was the last real stand for that crop, the last stand for the likes of Joe Sheridan, the last stand for the likes of Stephen Bray. They beat Dublin out the gate that day in 2010, putting 5 goals past them. And since then, the lads that have come in, 2012, Meath lost to Dublin in that Leinster final. And since then, the lads that have come in have all been young, pretty talented, but it's like they just expected to be beaten out the gate by Dublin every single time. And I personally, and you know, you'd be watching this back in 5 years if Meath go on to start winning Leinster titles and stuff, and say, like, careful what you wish for. I wish for a bit of a rivalry. I really do. Like, I miss a good Dublin Meath match where, like, you would not miss a Dublin Meath game. Going to Croke Park to watch a Dublin Meath game was a classic. And listening to the way my dad talks about the 90s games, and it seemed like it was such a great atmosphere and such a great rivalry there, that there is a mutual respect there between the two teams, but they didn't like each other. And like some of the best games that the GAA has seen, I mean, that 1991 saga between Dublin and Meath, by all accounts, changed GAA. It introduced a load of new people to the sport because it was a national sensation, really. Like, this were 4 replays. So yeah, if for the GAA, it would be great for the GAA if Meath made a bit of a burst and came back. And I do think you make a great point about O'Rourke, and you know, he has been out of the game for a while. But I think if O'Rourke brings in the likes of Bernard Flynn, who have been there with the under-20s, who have been there with these lads, and if Bernard Flynn can kind of escort them through to the senior side and use the chip on the shoulder that they have, and use the winning mentality that they have, and use the attitude that they have of, well, we beat Dublin every year. What are you talking about? We can't beat Dublin. That could light the fuse under the likes of Brian Menton, that under the likes of Donald Keogan, to get them thinking like, yeah, we can beat Dublin. And that league game could actually be one hell of a game to watch. Early one to put down on the calendar, I think.
Yeah, Gavin O'Reilly says Division 2 could be quite good next year. Absolutely, yeah. Like, let's not forget you've Derry in there as well. Like, like there's a lot of Division 2 is going to be very competitive next year. Make no mistake about that. Peter says here O'Rourke has his work cut out. Don't have the bite. But I think you made an excellent point there. Like, I think it depends on who he brings in, really, sort of. Like, I think that's going to be very, very key. Like, needs to bring in a bit of experience. And even you look at something like what Kerry done, for example, and bringing in Paddy Tally, going with an outside man, like that was quite an unusual appointment in some ways from a Kerry point of view when it happened, because like Paddy Tally, Tyrone, like they, Kerry players and fans would have grown up, like really disliking someone like Paddy Tally, because of what he done to stop Kerry winning All Irelands. But here he is now, a part of the Kerry panel. Like, I think Meath maybe need to do something like that, and start looking around and seeing, maybe who could we bring in here, maybe as a coach, or something like that. Like, I know Stephen Rochford's possibly available, like obviously with Declan Bonner having left Donegal. Could he be a good sort of number 2 to come in alongside O'Rourke, along with Bernard Flynn in the background? Like, so it'll be interesting to see what happens, all right. But I think, as you said there, like, I think we all kind of do want Meath to be, I don't want them to beat Dublin as such, but at the same time, it would be nice to have a rivalry, and it would be nice to, like, have that sort of physical edge and be going to a Dublin and Meath game and thinking this is going to be tough. And, like, I always do think the championship is better when you have more teams, more competitive sides. And I think, given the history of Meath, the third most successful team in All Ireland Senior Football Championship history, I think it would be good to see Colm O'Rourke get a tune out of these lads.
Yeah, no, like, and the GAA would absolutely love that as well. I mean, there's just no way that me coming back in and being competitive isn't good for everybody. It's great for the fans. I mean, like, a lot of them, why do you want to look at the attendances? Look at the attendances. Like, they haven't been great in the Leinster Championship over the last 2 years. Dublin Meath games in the 2000s, I know it was a different time. The recession in 2008 hadn't hit yet. So people had more money and, were more expressive with it and would go to Croke Park on the regular. But it had interest. Dublin weren't guaranteed to beat Meath back then. Now they pretty much are. And O'Rourke coming in, he comes in a hardcore man coming from that 1990s Meath team. Like, I wonder, did you see Liam Hayes doing that interview where he spoke about what he would do if he was in the dressing room playing up against this Dublin team? He did it a couple of years ago, and he was like, Fenton, McCarthy, Kieran Kilkenny. And he was like, and basically he was just saying, we just absolutely go out and take them out straight away. Like, just go out and start a fight with them. Like, if he's from that crop that they just did not fear Dublin. They did not have any sort of, put them on a pedestal. They weren't afraid of them. And if he can bring that mentality into this Meath team, combined with the flair that they do have, like, Jordan Morris has the potential to be a top class forward. I mean, his finishes for the goals that he scored over the last couple of seasons have been class, and there's the serious potential there. Jack O'Connor is another one that, like, was on the DCU team. Serious talent there with him. Shane Walsh, exactly the same. Huge talent. Like, they have the players. I really think they have the players. And if they work them into a system that is effective, like, I think they could take a lot out of the Jim McGuinness kind of playbook. I'm not saying that do exactly what Jim McGuinness did, but you look at Donegal's system now compared to Meath's situation. Donegal back in 2010 when Jim McGuinness took over, they had that team in Tyrone that they just could not beat. They did not believe that they could beat. The first thing that McGuinness comes in is psychologically kind of brainwash them to get them to believe that they can beat Tyrone. And then when they beat Tyrone, obviously they went on to win Ulster and win the All-Ireland the next season in 2012. With Meath, the first step for them is to really believe they can beat Dublin and really believe that they can put it up to them and be competitive again. And a win in the league could be massive to do that. That's why I'm genuinely saying that league game has a lot riding on it, because if Dublin go to Port Talton, say, and smash Meath to bits by 20 points, that's a terrible start for this new era, and we could see O'Rourke, leave the position in 1 year. But if Meath beat Dublin in Port Talton and there's a big crowd there and they all are loving beating Dublin, like it could ignite something in these Meath lads that they really believe now that they can beat Dublin. And you know, you never know. Leinster Championship, put it up to them, give them more confidence. I think the GAA would absolutely love it, and attendances would go way up if there was a good old Dublin Meath rivalry there again.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Like, and I suppose it would be ironic, all right, to see Colm O'Rourke have a bit of a defensive side, given the fact that the amount of times he's complained on the Sunday game about defensive sides and all the rest. But